My name is Ethan, and I've been working as an Uber driver in Los Angeles for a few years now. In this job, you get used to seeing strange things. People arguing, drunks who can't stand straight, passengers who shamelessly offer you drugs from the back seat, and much more. I've seen it all, but this experience, unlike the others, had nothing to do with crazy people. It was something far more unsettling. One Saturday night, around 2 a.m., I accepted a ride just a block away from where I was. It was near the downtown bar district, a spot full of people drinking and partying. Great for work, sure, but always with the risk of someone throwing up in your back seat. I pulled up to the corner where my passenger was supposed to be waiting. According to the app, it was just one girl, so I was a little surprised when I saw two women standing there. One of them looked really young, maybe 20, and she was completely wasted. She was leaning against a streetlight, swaying like she might collapse face first onto the asphalt. The other woman was older, probably in her 40s, dressed more conservatively and perfectly sober. She just stood there, barely moving, watching the younger girl stumble, without lifting a finger to help her. I rolled down the window and asked the younger one if she was Melanie. She said yes, slurring her words, nearly falling onto the car as she showed me her phone screen. A second later, she climbed into the back seat, practically tripping over herself. And here's where the first strange thing happened. I never noticed when the older woman got in. I didn't hear a door open or close. But when I glanced in the mirror, she was suddenly there, sitting silently in the seat behind me. I brushed it off, thinking maybe I'd been distracted. Still, I kept checking the mirror as they settled in. Despite the age difference, they looked oddly alike. Same nose, same hair. I figured they were family, which explained why the older woman looked so stern, maybe even annoyed. If she had come to drag her daughter home from a night of partying, I could understand her frustration. But hey, that wasn't my business. I started driving. Luckily, the app already had the destination because Melanie pretty much passed out the moment she got inside. The older woman never took her eyes off her. She didn't make eye contact with me through the mirror, didn't speak, didn't move. Just stared at her daughter with a mix of disappointment and concern. Finally, I asked if she was related to her. With a cold, dry tone, she replied, "I'm her mother." That was it. No more words after that. As the ride went on, the air inside the car grew heavy, strangely cold. I thought maybe I cranked the AC too high, so I mentioned turning it off but got no response. The rest of the trip was silent, aside from Melanie mumbling 4 or 5 times that she was going to throw up. I offered to pull over, told her to lean out the window, but she was too far gone to even respond. I asked her mom to help her sit up, but she ignored me completely. Now that I think of it, she never touched her daughter once the entire ride. Thankfully, Melanie managed to hold it together, and we were almost at the destination, a fancy residential area. I slowed down to take the turns carefully, not wanting to make her feel worse. Then, out of nowhere, I heard that cold, flat voice from the back say, "You're a good man. Please take care of her." I kept my eyes on the road and answered, "Don't worry, we're almost there." But as soon as I turned the next corner and glanced at the mirror, the older woman was gone. My first thought? She jumped out of the car. I checked my side mirrors, slowed down, and even turned my head to look back at the street we'd just driven through. Nothing. And at no point had I heard a door open or close. My rational side tried to explain it away, but my hands started shaking on the wheel. When we finally arrived at the apartment complex, I tried waking Melanie. Her eyes were shut tight, her words slurred nonsense, and she could barely move. I asked her to unlock her phone so I could call someone to help her, and she mumbled incoherently about her mom before bursting into tears. Eventually, I managed to get her to dial her dad by reflex and then hand me the phone. On the other end, a man with a deep, worried voice answered. I explained that I was her Uber driver, that his daughter was downstairs, but she couldn't get up on her own. Within minutes, he came rushing out of the building. We talked briefly, and I couldn't help but mention the other passenger, the woman who rode with us. The look in his eyes told me everything. He didn't say a word, but I knew he recognized who I was describing. He didn't explain, didn't deny it, just helped his daughter up, thanked me, and handed me a tip before heading back inside. I didn't dare press him further. But looking back, analyzing every detail I saw that night. I have this strong feeling that Melanie's mother, even after death, is still watching over her. Hi everyone, my name is Angela, and I'm from San Diego, California. But this story happened in Las Vegas, where my ex used to live. It was about 2 years ago, right in December. Looking back, I truly believe the emotional mess I was going through at the time had something to do with what happened. Let me give you a bit of context so it makes sense. I was going through one of the hardest phases of my life. My family was far away, I had just ended a toxic relationship, and I'd been left completely isolated. To make matters worse, I lost my job because of company downsizing. The bills kept piling up, I was drowning in debt, and I barely had enough to rent a room. The only thing I still had was my car, and even it had nearly fallen apart until I spent money I didn't have fixing it. So when I finally got it running again, my only option was to start working as an Uber driver. I'd only been at it for about a month. Financially, things were a little better, but emotionally, I was a wreck. I constantly had negative, self-destructive thoughts. If I remember correctly, it was December 22nd. I was depressed that I wouldn't be spending Christmas with my parents. And you know what they say, bad luck never comes alone. That night, while heading out of the city to pick up a passenger, I heard a loud bang. The car jerked, and I knew instantly something was wrong. My back tire had blown out on the worst stretch of road imaginable. A deserted highway surrounded by trees and shrubs. No houses, no cars, just cold silence. I had no choice but to cancel the ride and change the tire myself. And sure, I know how to do it, but being 5 feet 2 inches and about 110 pounds doesn't exactly make it easy. Still, I grabbed the jack, the wrench, and the spare and started working. Now, imagine my mood at that exact moment. Alone, broke, freezing, and angry at the world. That's why I think what happened next wasn't just coincidence. While crouched by the car, I suddenly heard whispers behind me. My body tensed. I stood up fast, holding the wrench tightly in my hand like a weapon. If someone wanted to mess with me, I was ready to let out all my frustration on them. But instead of a robber, what I saw across the road made my blood run cold. There was a little girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, staring right at me. Her face was dirty, her hair messy, and her clothes looked old and worn. For a moment, I thought she might be homeless. I raised my hand to wave and asked if she was okay. She didn't respond. She just stared at me, completely still like a statue. That's when fear kicked in. My brain raced with paranoid thoughts. What if she was being used as bait for a robbery? What if someone was waiting for me to let my guard down? I spoke louder, asked where her parents were, but she didn't move. Seconds passed, and just then a car zoomed past at full speed, blocking my view of her for just a split second. And in that fraction of a second, she was gone. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. My instinct screamed at me to finish changing that tire as fast as possible. My hands shook as I worked, and to distract myself, I called my parents and put them on speaker. While they were talking, trying to cheer me up, I began to hear those whispers again, behind me. Louder this time. It was like they were right in my ear, though I couldn't understand a single word. I pretended nothing was happening and kept answering my parents' questions, forcing a calm voice. But my mom suddenly asked if I was alone, because she swore she could hear voices near me. That nearly made me lose it. I lied, told her I was on a busy street, just so she wouldn't worry. I finished tightening the bolts faster than I've ever done in my life. Tossed the flat tire and tools in the trunk, refusing to glance to the side, because I could feel it. Something was watching me from across the road. Heart pounding, I jumped into the driver's seat, started the engine, and floored it. I tried so hard not to look in a mirror, but my curiosity won. And there she was again, sitting on the center divider of the highway, watching me drive away. To this day, it's one of the strangest things I've ever lived through. Over the years, I've become more spiritual, and I can't help but think my own negative energy at the time played a part. My grandmother used to say that when your mind is full of pain, anger, and despair, you open yourself up to dark things. Maybe the flat tire was just coincidence, but in that moment with my life at rock bottom, I think I attracted something from the other side that stayed with me on that lonely road for at least 5 terrifying minutes.